In 20XX is a journey into the singularity, year by year. Based on hard science, this series showcases emerging tech and searches for what is possible. The story changes as tech evolves. Rate the show so others can find it. Cautionary listening is advised.
The young people in the survival facility below Giantess HQ are running out of power. A group of 3 in the control room watch system screens mounted to burn-marked walls. Lenny sits hunched forward. His longer hair sticks out in wild directions. Drawley leans against a desk that holds burned computer parts. He wears a choker made of wire and LED lights, and he's removed the sleeves from his shirt. DeAndre stands, wearing the standard school outfit of unisex pants and collar shirt, feet placed together, pointing at the largest screen. She's used art supplies to paint her nails and put on eyeliner. Lenny likes to think that he and these two have come together because they all come from unstable backgrounds. DeAndre was recruited from Mexico and left her family there in a time when the U.S. and Mexico couldn't get along. Drawley's only parent, his father, fell deep for the Messiah app, and Drawley was half-starved when the school found him. The other kids came from privileged backgrounds. Lenny strains his jaw as he glances from the Waterlive recycle system map to the temperature control floor maps. If we leave everything switched on, we'll only have about a month or 2 left. We've got to cut power to anything that isn't absolutely necessary for us to survive. Assist. Tell group, what's our population? A spunky femme's voice says, 71 Humes. He says, everyone can move closer together and we can shut down entire floors. Drawley's narrow eyes blink. This is just, like Factory Madness, the game about troubleshooting a Giantess production center. DeAndre's dark, thin eyebrows raise. We should tell everyone before we do it. Those living on upper floors will need to move. Lenny nods. Let's all get people to check in every room, spreading the word. We can shut things off in, let's say, 4 hours. Drawley air gestures, scrolling one of the screens. I think I found a power-saving mode. Looks like I can shut off 2 out of 3 lights in all the halls. Yes, let's do it. Lenny looks irritated as he air gestures. DeAndre clasps her hands. What is it? Lenny waves the air like he's shooing a fly. Oh, my school assist won't go away. When I have the time, I want to get rid of her. Drawley says, if you root install Medusa as your, sole net provider, you can get rid of her. DeAndre gazes up. We could be soaring if not for this astronomical disaster. Drawley opens his mouth. Lenny turns to give DeAndre a confused look as he nods. They plan to kill power for the upper floors, most robot services, servers, entertainment equipment, and central cooling. Since so many are hitting puberty, the medbay's top service request is permanent hair removal. They'll discontinue that. Showers and clothing printing will stop. The 3 split up. Lenny starts on the top floor of 17 floors dedicated to living space, so he gets off the elevator first. Older kids live on floor 1. The brightly lit halls that gently curves left are empty. Lenny knocks on the first door he comes to. No answer. He crosses the hall to the next door. No answer. A short bot rolls down the sleek floor, spots a mark near the wall, and cleans it. At the 5th door, a girl with pigtails that she bound to the sides of her head with no regard for how they look answers the door. She's cut her pants into shorts and wears a shirt many sizes too big for her. Lenny explains the situation and asks her to join in helping to spread the word. She frowns. Do you really need my help? I'm so close to porting an emulated personality from the school computer to Medusa. No, go ahead. You're the first one I talk to. They exchange smiles and he leaves her. She and the next 4 people he talks to have grown so tall. They sprung up overnight. The oldest survivors are adult height now. Is everyone answering when he knocks? When no one answers, he opens doors to peer inside and finds empty rooms with the lights left on. Making his way to the next level down, the number of empty rooms scares him. Has the shaking disease taken so many? Of everyone he speaks to, only one joins the effort and goes to another floor to knock on doors. These almost adults want to go further into projects they started years ago, like scour old telescope photos for new discoveries, or develop a new robotic joint, or analyze changes to local microbes. One shirtless 18-year-old with bloodshot eyes peeks through the gap between door and doorway and says, "I'm so close to finding a way to end the storm. I think chemistry will get us out of this." Lenny checks each of 5 rig rooms. Behind every door, people stay strapped in, don't remove their headsets, and offer excuses. One of these people is his old roommate from when people needed to share rooms. Does Neil remember they shared a room? Now Neil, wearing ties around his waist like belts, looks old enough to join the army. He's one of the people who will be disappointed that facial hair removal services will be paused. As Lenny makes his way to lower floors, he notices that the younger kids aren't in their rooms, but band together in the halls. Even when they VR, they do so sitting side by side. He looks down at 12-year-olds, their glasses like mirrors. "Excuse me, I need to speak to you about some big changes we'll be making." Before he finishes explaining, they stand and ask if they can help spread the word. He doesn't need to ask. As a group, they set out. Those going barefoot have painted the soles of their feet. They must trade clothes because mismatched sizes have become the new norm. Their bondedness doesn't leave him with a warm feeling. They cling to each other, like actually grasp each other's arms and hands. How are they going to ever get anything done when they can't be alone? As the groups get their things and move, he watches one group meld into others. How can this be? When he was their age, cliques ruled all social interactions. Groups never joined groups. Impossible. As kids press into the elevator, handsome, plain, and homely kids all mix. The way they run down the halls together, disperse, and regroup reminds him of birds flying as one. Although these birds cover their skin with glitter, write the names of lost loved ones on their arms, and dye their hair multicolor. As focused as he is to who belongs to what group, who's in and who's outcast, he can't find one instance of rejection or shyness to join. 2 kids can unclasp hands with one group, run to another group and clasp hands with them, without anyone skipping a beat. And these are kids chosen for high levels of independent solution discovery. These were the loners who could do trig in 3rd grade. Lenny can think of one word for the way they act together: ritualistic. They sit in circles and draw on each other with markers. Not only do they clump together to make dolls, they then pin to their clothes, and when they converse, it's more like they sing together than banter back and forth. He swears they speak to each other through gestures. Do they share a secret sign language? They bump into each other without friction, and the way they lock eyes creeps him out. The only time he saw anything like this was the Messiah app cult members who flocked to the rec zones handing out QR codes. As he walks down the hall with a group of them, he turns to a boy of around 13 who wears a costume wig. Lenny says, "What do you believe in?" The boy looks at him. Those around the boy also look. They give quizzical expressions. "What do you mean?" the boy asks. Lenny says, "What do you think is ultimate reality?" The boy's eyes grow wide. Well, I don't think we found it yet. I think we're closer. Like with Knott's math." Lenny breathes a sigh of relief. At least they aren't spawning a new cult. But what if what they are is much worse than anything he's seen before? What if he and the other older kids must separate from these bonded kids at some point in the future? His worry reveals more about himself than them. Other, separate. These words show up in his thoughts so often. Some of these kids will be the age he is in 5 years or so. They should be his generation. Didn't older generations span decades? It must be the terrible situation they've all gone through that's driven such a drastic change in behavior. These kids lost their parents all at once. Maybe they'll outgrow this clinginess if the colony manages to survive. Here he is using another cognitive bias. If something's new, it won't last. How many people have tried to hold back change? The newest generation always replaces the old. He must just focus on staying alive and wait and see. As he takes the stairs from floor 6 down to floor 7, some of the older people pass him as they carry personal items. He meets up with DeAndre in the hall. "How's it going?" With snappy eyes, she says, "On a cold night, The fire in the cabin draws the town together. Lenny pats her shoulder. Yes, that is it. If DeAndre likes to come up with odd one-liners, that's okay with him. Remember to tell everyone that we're rationing food and water. People move into rooms on floors 13 through 17. In the upper floors, all the power shuts off. Where there's power, most lights shut off, leaving islands of light in the otherwise dark halls. Everyone adjusts to living in darkness. At the same time that floors go dark, some web services blink out, and cool drafts stop flowing. Minutes later, everyone gets a message. You are officially challenged to enter a competition. To win, you must come up with a plan to bring more power to HQ. Kids smile when they see this relic of what life at the school used to be like. Many spring into action, imagining how the group could achieve some new source of power. When Rena was a little girl, she lived on her father's estate. She liked to make model towns, and by 5, had built an impressive model town on a group of tables. She drew pictures of the town residents, and Francisca, head of staff, had Rena's drawings turned into movable figures, with fabric clothes and real Hume hair. Rena uploaded talks of the town, and gained a following. Her father had her town remade as a half-size installment, a kilometer northeast of the main house. The remake had a working train and robotic replicas of her town residents. She could wander in the town, go into any of the buildings, ride the train, and interact with the character she imagined herself. Her father hired famous set designers to lavish the buildings, roads, and gardens with detail. When she rarely visited his reconstruction, he laughed it off. A girlfriend he had for a short period liked to visit the half-sized town and talk with the half-sized town folks who declared things like, "I'm the baker. I make the bread." Rena has stronger memories of Germany and New Zealand from family trips than of the half-sized town. The model town she built herself remains such a vivid memory to this day that she can go back there in her mind. All the detail remains, even the edges on construction paper she used to make roof shingles and siding. At 9, she won a game with a special purpose, and Giantess contacted her father. He didn't want her to go, but all his colleagues told him the school would make her more successful than him. He had never seen them jealous of him before. So she left his estate of 90,000 acres and started a new life. A life of crowded classrooms, dormitory rooms, clubs, and project competitions all in one skyscraper downtown. Now 16. Her long, sparkling dreads interwoven with colorful thread and wires counteracts with her quiet and meek demeanor. She dislikes working up top and prefers staying deep underground in the shelter. The high rise above the shelter has 3 levels of underground parking, and she works on the lowest level. In that way, she's protected from the storm. But the humid air up top saps her energy. The storm shakes the building to the core, and shrieks of high winds startle her. Insects invade the garage. They walk across walls and find nooks and crannies to hide in. Thick layers of cobwebs build up in corners and on the pipes mounted to the ceiling. Snakes, lizards, and rats feed off the insects. The Explorer team, 3 loud, joking kids, leave her alone in the parking garage level E. They go to the 8th floor and bring back food production equipment for her. When she first comes here, she brings a few weeks' worth of rations. She sleeps up here because the trek up the stairwell takes hours. For weeks she assembles equipment alone, only seeing the team when they pass through, bringing her lab equipment. The garage remains dark except for a stand lamp she moves to work under. She pairs her link with Cam's Explorer team clip to their clothes so she can see what they see and remotely tell them where to search, what to look for, and where those things were the last time she saw floor 6. Mara says, "Why don't you come up here with us? We'll make sure you're safe." Rena's voice remains quiet. "I couldn't. People died up there." The others laugh over the line. She needs the computers and equipment to turn digital DNA files into starter cells of a very special kind. Before the storm, She specialized in developing next-generation food production. America had grown its produce in grow buildings and brewed its protein products. Food production improves when steps are removed from the process. Why grow plants to feed brew to produce meat when you can grow meat the same way you'd grow plants? Explorer Team brings her the equipment that she sets up to grow a new kind of life form, Ogra, made by splicing plant, fungi, and animal DNA and inserting it into cells that have had their DNA removed. She places Ogra starter cells in a basin filled with damp compost. Pairs of exposed wires run along the bottom. A wire with an electric charge and a ground wire make up the wire pairs. As Ogra grows, its roots attach to the wires, and it uses current to make its food. Sap, much like liquid sunlight, travels from the roots to the rest of the organism. Its leaves don't convert sunlight to power, but they do pull carbon, water, and nitrogen out of the air, exhaling oxygen. Its leaves are more like the book lungs of arachnids. Some Ogra move their leaf lungs like slow-moving accordions. Ogra fixes its own nitrogen. This is huge. Talk about removing steps from the process. Ogra doesn't need fertilizer once used to supply crops with fixed nitrogen. The air is 78% nitrogen. The various Ogra, on average, grow up to 17 times faster than plants. There are many different kinds of Ogra, named after the foods they produce. Wheat. Ogra grows nodules of wheat mass the size of melons. Apple. Ogra grows watermelon-sized fruit filled with 100% apple meat, minus the seeds. In the loneliness of the parking garage, she sets up shelves of trays, wired to car batteries and growing different Ogra. Once established, Ogra won't need replanting. They repeatedly produce more and more and more of their fruits. No one has seen how long an Ogra lifespan is, but it's only been alive in the lab for 5 years. Most of the fruits are as big as watermelons, and their meats are molecule for molecule, the same as their names' sakes. She grows wheat, oats, apple, strawberry, pumpkin, grapes, berry, peach, tomato, onion, avocado, carrot, celery, and almond. Why not just grow carrot as nature first formed it? To grow carrots, she'd need to make healthy soil and fertilizer. She would need to power grow lamps and water often. Ogra carrot fruits provide the same plant meat. Other kinds of Ogra grow what's close to spinach leaves, and another, lettuce leaves. Before the storm, most protein products came from breweries. Rapid grow hemp fed brew beef, brew ham, brew milk, and brew egg. The rapid grow hemp grew nearly as fast as Ogra, but she can grow Ogra that produce beef fruits, tuna fruits, turkey fruits. In other words, all the products closely matching the products once taken from animals. Once ready to pick, these fruits spoil fast and need to be cooked or chilled. When she runs low on rations, she climbs the steps back down. On her second trip up, others come with her. They fight heat-induced lethargy on the first day or two. It's like working in a sauna. They sweat so much they talk about how their water rations aren't enough. But they adjust and take apart the hundreds of cars abandoned in the garages. Modular cars can be separated into parts. By placing lock wands at points, doors easily come off. Roofs, hoods, and seats come off in seconds. A 2040 car is 3 times lighter than one built in 2025. AutoNo car services used to routinely dismantle cars just to clean them. They break cars down, leaving empty spaces, and piles of parts grow taller against the walls. Rena attaches car batteries to Ogra trays. She hates all the 4, 6, 8, and no-legged creatures and cowers when one gets in her way. Lee comes to her rescue, using a wide broom to clear her work area. Lee is only 10, and looks up to Rena like a younger brother. They build shelves and attach the wires to the bottom of the trays. The garage remains poorly lit. Each person can carry a lamp to where they work. As the Ogra reach fruiting age, the air feels drier, cooler, and cleaner. As batteries run low, they set them aside and hook up one still with charge. When Ogra crops start fruiting, the colony celebrates. Much more Ogra must be established to feed everyone, but the fact that they have a plan to get food for the long run helps everyone feel better. Kids arrive from down below to carry Ogra fruit down to the shelter. One day, Miss Flecky arrives from the stairwell and finds Rena near one of 3 lamps in the deep dark. Rena almost screams when she sees Miss Flecky. With a tired expression, Miss Flecky says, "I want to help." Rena lowers her head. "Oh, we have it covered up here." Miss Flecky grabs the straps of her backpack. "I want to carry food downstairs." "Okay, yes. Thank you." Cavan likes it when most lights shut off. The droids go still and are moved out of the way. He doesn't like how everyone moves from dispersed rooms throughout the many floors to living side by side. Everyone got a hand crank charger with their emergency kit. It comes with a built-in flashlight, and he uses his to wander the otherwise pitch-black halls of the upper floors. The shapes of frozen adults always turn into robots when he passes. Random items lay strewn across the floors. Doors stand open and bed coverings lay bunched up in disarray. Classrooms, the first and second cafeterias, the art room, rec room, rig rooms, and soundproof practice rooms all stand open and empty. This is the perfect environment for what he needs as long as he can drag a girl here. But those on the occupied floors close their doors to him. He returns to the occupied floors. As he saunters down the halls, kids edge away from him and bristle. Conversations stop, groups pull closer together, and some of the older kids whisper and square their shoulders. These reactions mean nothing. He walks the halls, just having a look around, just stretching his legs. This is part of the fun. He could do this for hours. He misses the times when he had to choose between more than one perfect situation. Now, all the youngest have perished. That's a problem for him. What? Is he supposed to wait for new kids to be born and grow old enough to reach his preferred age? He laughs at the thought, even though it's the least funny idea he can think of. Soon everyone will be too old. Then people are on to him. If only he could go back in time when clueless girls waited down every hall. The last one he messed with got sick. Now she's gone. How long has it been? He's waited for more than a year. The general population can't stay on guard that long. He opens a door to the stairwell and takes the stairs. As he descends, the floors become quieter. Soon, he'll reach the utility floor. This floor is dark and vacant like the lights-out floors. What is this? A girl's humming drifts up the stairs. He slows down. Below him, sitting on the steps, a perfect specimen holds 2 handmade dolls and hums. She must be younger than 11. Of all the kids who died, he believes 4 or 5 never got the disease. This must be one of those. How perfect is this? After all the waiting and watching, look at this. Her silly dress, her total lack of self-awareness as she plays one doll off the other. He descends slowly, silently. As she gets closer, it's as though she materializes inside his brain. He grabs her and lifts her in one motion, handling her like he's known her whole life. Now that he's bigger, this will be a lot easier than the last time. She drops her dolls as he carries her down the stairs. She is like a doll herself in his arms, kicking and swinging her arms, making pitter-patter impacts. She screeches at the top of her lungs. Of course she does. The door to the utility floor is just down there. The sound blasting his ears thaws the numbness inside. With her mouth open, it looks like she has all her teeth. The stink breath isn't his favorite. Other stairwell doors open and deep voices shout. His heart sinks. Why? Why are they on his tail like this? Large feet stomp downstairs. Husky voices, both male and femme, call out, "Grocket." He drops the girl and pushes open the door. Someone strikes his head and someone else grabs both his arms. They all tumble over the girl, who's lost to hysterics. Someone knocks off his AR glasses. They fly and slide across the floor. His chin hits the mycrete. The pain blast goes off like colored light in his mind. They've got him on the ground. The Lenny guy is shouting at him. They argue with each other because one older boy wants to hit him. The muted struggle bores him. After an hour of tedium, when they ask him something, he makes eye contact but says nothing. They drag him to the community floor. They look confused, scared. As they argue about what to do with him, they lock him in a room. No, they won't let him out. Not anytime soon. Who will feed him? They argue about how to find someone to feed him each day. They go away. Cavan sits on the edge of the bed for hours without moving. Voices come and go. Sometime later, days later, he wakes and paces in a circle. Link is off. His clothes are dirty. He finds bruising on his ribs. The controls near the door won't brighten the room any lighter than quarter bright. He sits on the edge of the bed like before. Days later, he strikes the wall. He kicks the door and shouts. He does this for several hours. It's a lot like walking. Only bruises form on his knuckles, and his sweat smells. Voices. Get back from the door. They are holding him down. Two boys take the door off and cut away the bottom. When they put it back, there's a gap between the floor and the bottom of the door.
It's easier not to wonder what'll happen. He sits at the edge of the bed. Sometimes food and bottled water slides under the door. The hall outside is quiet now. They can't just leave him here for the rest of his life. What will happen if the storm ends and a rescue team finds what they've done to him? Mara, Ajay, and Toshi make up the explorer team. On their first trip to the top, they climb the tight spiral stairs in the exit tube. Toshi, his jacket painted with symbols, stops and holds his arms out. Look, I can almost touch both sides at once. The echoes become high-pitched chimes. AJ, who looks big and beefy like a bully, says, "Wow, that's neat." His wide smile shows his teeth. Wearing bright yellow gloves, he stops behind Toshi. Mara, a mustache drawn above her lips with oil crayon, continues climbing the stairs above them. Why don't we keep moving? Toshi and Ajay climb the stairs faster to catch up. Swinging his arms, Ajay picks up an earlier thread of conversation. So, who do you think has the richest parents? My parents were young and traveled all the time, all the time. Mara smirks. Separately? Ajay gives a soft laugh. Well, yes, Mara says. Did they ever take you with them? Not really. I had a mansion and 2 guest houses all to myself. And we had so many robots. Toshi takes power steps. My mom said she was 55 when she had me and stopped working the same year. We had I don't even know how many houses we had. We had planes. My mom owned a mountain we used to stay on. She used to tell her friends she bought it so she could ski. But one year the snow didn't come back. I saw some snow falling once. After some silence, Mara says, my dads, before they met, both only worked a couple of one-time jobs. But that was enough for them to start a B&B that looked like the cutest farm you could imagine, with real animals. I know what you're gonna ask. We didn't farm the animals. They were for show. The sides of her head are shaved, and she pulls her bangs back behind her ears. They explore the garages and adjoining utility rooms. In the dark, they sweep with feeble lights. Toshi walks like a pop star on stage, moving from one action stance to the next. AJ takes gliding steps as his 2 large arms swing. Mara keeps a straight, almost stiff posture. Would you look at all these cars? Mara covers her mouth and takes a step back when they almost walk over the remains of a femme and 2 children, mostly eaten, lying on the ground in the elevator bay. AJ uses the toe of his shoe to poke at the mostly fabric and bone of a leg. Toshi checks the elevators. They can hear the storm, but so far, they feel safe. Each sets up sealed tents and they spend the night. The next day, when they take the regular-sized stairwell to the first floor, they encounter heavy drafts, pressure changes, and sucking when opening doors. Now they check their harnesses with care and put on the DIY padded hats. The furniture remains in place, but smaller objects move about on the cluttered floor. Windows that once looked out on downtown now hold back packed layers of debris. One window looks like an ant farm, because they can watch ants move through tunnels and chambers that touch the glass. Checking every space on the first and second floor, Toshi maps as they all keep an eye out for things the colony needs. One of the first things they look for is any power. All lights and outlets are dead. On the third day, when they open the door to the third floor, the winds push them back. Here they tie thick rope to anything mounted like rails and fire hydrant pipes. They clip onto the rope as they push forward. In the hall, they find one body rocking back and forth on the floor. In the rooms, papers fly. Of all the furniture, research equipment, and other items, nothing remains standing and in an orderly place. Now the winds are weak enough for the team to be able to walk around. All the windows have been broken open and wreckage spills in. Mara says, "At one time, winds blew a lot harder here. It looks like the trash outside piled up and cut off the wind. The building isn't just impacted, scraped, smashed, but stained from floodwaters and coated with large stretches of grime buildup. All kinds of the latest builder bots and fabrication bots strewn the floor, but they aren't working and would use a lot of power to run. It takes longer for them to identify what each room was used for. Days pass. Fourth and fifth floor are much the same. A monstrous RV remains lodged in the fifth floor. Now dirt and garbage bury both the floor and the RV. Toshi breaks off the windshield and they shine their lights inside. I count 5, 6. Ajay picks up the windshield and tosses it so it glides across the room. How many bodies have we seen so far?
Mara reads the label on a bottle she picked up. Why don't we keep mapping? The sixth floor is entirely different. Wind forces send all manner of objects whipping about. The team must coordinate where they'll go as they hang to their daisy chain and find things to hang on to keep from getting swept off their feet. They dodge larger objects and complain when struck. Watch out for the box! After 2 hours, they retreat to the now tranquil fifth floor to take a break. Mara sits on the floor and removes her visor and cloth helmet. If the floors above 6 are like that, I don't see how we'll get very far. AJ looks at the other two, smiling. The garbage outside is getting in on the 6th floor. We could seal the floor off. Toshi is nodding. The building's holding up pretty good. You know those rolls of fencing on the garage floor? They plan to close off floor 6. Each day that they go onto this floor, they come better equipped. They improve their helmets, padded clothing, and harnesses. They mount handles to the walls and attach fencing nets inside halls to catch flying objects. Many of the rooms offer breaks from the winds, but the halls are like wind tunnels. In a large room with a wall of broken open windows, debris spills in from outside and appears to rise above the floor, but winds penetrate. If it were one great wind always going in the same direction, their job would be easier. But winds with jet engine strength come at them with no pattern. They go to the building engineers' rooms on garage level D, where tools are kept. Using what they can find on hand, they try and fail several times to attach some kind of handles or hooks to the floor. Finally, they discover by drilling holes through the ceiling on the 5th floor and feeding conduit cable through. They now have a cable to hold on to as they climb toward the windows. Toshi and Ajay stay back holding an anchor rope attached to Mara, who climbs to the windows. The winds sometimes pick her up and throw her down. The next day, they climb the long stairs down. Control room. Team gaze with wonder at Ajay, Mara, and Toshi. Their wind battle gear has changed, scratched, and wind-beaten. Their cheekbones stand out.
Back in the shelter, they jockey around, elbowing each other and laughing. There's a new person present in the control room, a girl wearing thick woven fabrics and shiny sleeves around her dreadlocks. Mara says, "I know you want us to find a medicine printer." Lenny gestures to the new girl. "Rena here says she knows how to make food, but she needs your help. She worked on the Ogra project. Have you heard of that?" Survivors, you're challenged to a competition to come up with a plan to secure long-lasting power for our colony. As you know, we're running out of power, and we'll probably die slowly and in pain if we can't find more power. Besides that, we're limited in what we can do by lack of power. We can make things a lot nicer for ourselves if only we had the power. The winner of this competition will receive a lifetime supply of candy. We can't make candy yet, but plans are in the works. Imagine while everyone else will only get limited amounts of candy, you'll get all the candy you want. In the cafeteria, as voices fill the air, Curtis, wearing a blanket like a cape, approaches Lenny. "I've been thinking about the power problem." Lenny clears his glasses and looks up. "Yeah?" Curtis, 13, has dust stains on his clothes. "I'd like to look at the power grid in the control room." Lenny's brow jumps. "Sure." An hour later, Curtis looks over the power interface in the control room as Lenny looks on. Outside power may have been switched off during emergency mode, but I can't find any such switch. That means some kind of system outside the survival bunker may control switching on and off outside power. With all the geothermal and nuclear power in the region, there's a big chance I can switch the power back on and wind back the pendulum power storage. Lenny exchanges glances with DeAndre. "That sounds great to me. How are you going to get to the switching mechanism? We don't even know where the weight storage is at." Curtis's small hands sweep the air, moving the AR map. "The power comes into the shelter from somewhere. I'll find that location and take it from there." He reaches in his pocket and pulls out a 6-legged bot that fits in the palm of his hand. "I can use this to crawl down power tubes."
As Henra, her wild hair interwoven with scarves, sits in a circle with 9 others, Chalk's face appears in her AR. He's drawn thick circles of blue around his eyes. He says, "Did you feed Cavan yesterday?" Her mouth gapes. "I thought you were going to. Or Lasser." Chalk micro gestures a headshake. "A number." "Well, it's your turn. You should feed him." Hendra's eyes dart. "You always say it's my turn. When was the last time you fed him?" 2 days ago. Henra sneers. "I fed him 2 days ago. It's your turn." Chalk's upper half disappears. Henra resumes her game of follow the animal. Minutes later, Chalk and Lasser request her to join group chat. When she accepts, Lasser says, "Help! Come here. Cavan's escaped." His chat cam shows the door to Cavan's room busted open. Word gets out and more people search for him. Like an agitated ant nest, clusters of kids run from room to room, looking behind things and under things. Voices and live footage flood the group chat. The kids take it seriously, but an element of hide and go flavors the event. Maybe an emergency like this is exactly what many of the kids needed. In less than an hour, a child's voice declares in chat, "I found him." "Where are you?" "Utility floor." As people make it to the utility floor open to Humes, a crowd forms around of a little door in the wall. They take turns poking their head through to have a look. The door opens to a shaft and Cavan sits at the bottom, several stories down. He resists looking up, but they can tell it's him. And he isn't down there alone. A taller body, an adult body, lay at the bottom, on its side and partly curled up. Perspiration cools Henra's upper lip as she calls down. "Cavan, are you injured?" Standing next to her, Lasser tugs on his many necklaces made from cut food containers. He says, He doesn't talk. He hasn't said a word for months. A few hours later, they lower Chalk down in a harness at the end of a rope. Everyone watches on Chalk's glasses cam. It smells down here. The paint on the shaft tube looks charred. Henry says, "Stay back from Cavan. He may attack you." Lasser studies the feed. "Look at his leg. It's all swollen, and his arm. They might be broken. We can..." A girl with fabric wings holding a flashlight says, "Who's the man?" Another in the group says, "I don't know." The adult's body is ballooned out, but his face is gaunt and dry as unpolished shoe leather. Chalk zooms in on the face of the adult. "Does anyone recognize him? Is he a guardian?" Some mumble, "No." Henry says, "What's Cavan doing?" "Nothing." Lasser slouches. "How are we going to get him out of there?" Henry backs into him. "Do you think if we give him a harness, he'll cooperate?" Chalk calls out, "Guys, can you pull me up? It stinks a lot down here. I can't breathe." Chalk floats upward. His legs kick as he's pulled through the little door. Hours pass in pitch darkness for Cavan. He jerks when items hit the shaft base near to where he sits. A voice calls from above. "I tossed you today's rations. That's food and water." Another voice speaks to the first, but Cavan can't make out what they say to each other. He searches around in the dark, finds a water bottle, uncaps it, and drinks desperately. Lenny walks down the hall to his room when a femme calls him with a note of accusation. "Hey, Lenny." He turns around. Before he can figure out what's happening, Winter, Gertrude, and Emmy, the most popular, most attractive girls, corner him against a wall. Winter, wearing a skirt over a one-piece bathing suit, and having pierced each eyebrow 3 times since the last time he saw her, gets up in his face. Emmy and Gertrude block his left and right. Winter stands on his foot and leans in close. She's just as tall as he is. What is this rumor that you can do knots math? His heart does flips, yet he strangely feels calmer around them than he's ever felt before. These 3 have shown him solid disinterest for years. He's used to feeling invisible to them. If he knows knots math, why would they care, and why care so much? All 3 wear their cutest outfits and have found some way to wash them when clothes printing is paused and gray water is limited. Emmy and Gertrude grip his arms as hard as they can. He knows their faces so well, but to see them up close like this feels like a new reality replacing the old one. Scary popular girls 2.0. Winter taps his cheek with her palm. "Don't look at my breasts, look at me." Her flattened brow and compressed lips add to her stare. "Why did you start that rumor?" Her eyes look amazing, he reluctantly admits. It's only looks, but arguing that point with his instincts is pointless. A faint smile shows on his lips, and she smiles ever so faintly before redoubling her seriousness and disapproval. Something is gone. That chasm between him and them that he could never dream of reaching across no longer exists. She may not agree with him about that, but here she is, her nose several centimeters from his. The words come out of his mouth. "It's not a rumor." Winter winces and blinks at him. She side glances, purses her lips, and furrows her brows. "I'm smarter than you. If you accidentally found a way to learn it, teach me." Emmy grips harder. "Yeah, teach her." Blood rushes to Lenny's middle. "What? You want me to teach you?" "Teach her." Winter pulls back. "After dinner, show me you know it and aren't just lying, and teach me." The other 2 let go and step back. Lenny pulls his shirt down. Okay." She pulls her foot off his foot. "When I'm done eating, you may approach me in the cafeteria." In the next moment, he's watching them walk away as if nothing passed between him and them. In a corner of the cafeteria, Grace sits behind the torso of a Luton 2. Several of its back plates are removed, and wires reach from the back to a wall screen. Another wire connects to a keyboard she types on. The glow from the screen lights her face. After dinner, kids come and go. A group of 4 invent a sport involving 3 balls. On the other side of the cafeteria, 14 people play biochemistry trivia. A girl has made herself like a mummy wrapped head to toe in medical strips, and she wanders from one group to the next. 2 11-year-olds, both barefoot, approach Grace carrying battery bricks. Grace, we charge these with our hand crank chargers. Grace says nothing and types uninterrupted. I think we put them on the table with the other batteries. One child places his battery down, and the other does the same. Can she hear us? I'm not sure. Lenny enters, walks to Grace, sees the batteries lying on the table, and connects them to wires already connected to batteries, and leading into the robot. Taking a voltmeter, he tests the charge on batteries and removes the ones that need recharging. He stands back as he watches the screen Grace works on. His eyebrows raise when something looks comprehensible, but soon lower again. After a minute, he sits and watches. As Grace works, kids come and go. Some bring her more batteries. He hands them batteries that need recharging. As the hours pass, the numbers dwindle. Grace stops typing, notices the food left for her, unwraps it, and chews it. She stands and walks to her room to sleep. The next day, she types. Between breakfast and dinner, about 10 others sit in the cafeteria. Without looking from the screen, she says, I've got something here. Several kids stop talking and walk over to her. What is it? You have something? As a group gathers behind her, she types some commands and plays a simulation of 20 long-chain molecules interacting. The others watch in silence. I'm emulating computer architecture built around Knott's math. I've written my first programming language based on the math and am using it to run a simulation whose floor is the standard model. Her little hands make fists over the keys. She watches the screen with a big smile on her face. A femme, who's drawn all over her clothes, says, Wow, how many molecules is that? That's really down to the standard model? Lenny runs into the cafeteria, spots the group, and runs over as people in the group comment. On a measly Luton computer. Think what she could do on a supercomputer. Not that long ago, simulating a single atom was considered impossible. The 3-body problem. Grace speaks, and the others stop talking. The problem with traditional math is that it's based on counting. She shows no reaction to the others clapping. Lenny slows as he reaches the group. Grace blinks several times as she says, I want to make a computer built on Knott's math. Dale enters the control room. His cheeks curve inward on an otherwise square face. He's already tall, considering he's only 14. Other kids have drawn scientific formulas all over his clothes. Lenny says to DeAndre, an 11-year-old who wants to leave to find his parents. Deidre gives her head a quick shake. Don't let him do it. Lenny turns and spots Dale. Dale says, I can build a nuclear reactor. For power. He keeps his hands held up and moves his long, slender fingers. Lenny's head jumps. Wow, how? I mean, do you have a plan? Where are the parts you need? The lab I need to get to is on the 12th floor. DeAndre turns in her chair to face them. That's a problem. Explorer team can't get past the 10th floor. We'll need to talk with them. What is it exactly you want to build? Dale gestures with fingers pointed up. A thorium reactor with a molten salt turbine. Lenny stands. How much room do you need? Can you build it in a room? How safe is it? Small reactors like it were used on job sites, on ships as portable generators. For class, we took apart a generator meant for an aircraft carrier. All the parts are up there. Lenny steps forward. But are they safe? Dale's large eyes widen. It won't kill us all if there's an accident. We'll need to do things to keep it running safely. We shouldn't live right next to it. DeAndre holds an E-pen up. We can move the grow beds down into the shelter. Laughing, Toshi raises his fists. But we're almost done sealing the 3rd floor. Mara stands, rocking back and forth. It's what they need. Explorer team, Mara, Ajay, and Toshi put on gear on the 2nd floor. They've made upgrades to their gear, and others have custom-built new equipment for them. A youth has custom-made their helmets out of robot shell pieces, crash jacket elements, thermal foam, environmental suit strapping, and builder's visor helmets and sensors. The AR visors show the studs hidden in the walls. They wear padded clothing with bot shells, stitched onto the arms, back, chest, and legs. Between layers, paper-thin bulletproof plates cover most of their bodies. Their harnesses have carabiners on the front and back to lock them to guide cables. Above the 2nd floor, they lock themselves to pinned cables. If they need to go somewhere where there isn't a guide cable, they mount one. They wear robotic lock gloves. These exoskeletons make their hands larger while keeping sensitivity and agility. They protect hands, wrists, and lower arms and enable greater strength. If the wind lifts them while they're gripping the guide cable, the gloves automatically clamp on without damaging the cable. The gloves are also useful for breaking through, cutting, and prying apart. Toshi carries an altered pin driver to mount handle loops to the walls. A 12-year-old altered the cartridge to fit pins with woven nanowire loops. When Toshi places the driver against the wall and pulls the trigger, the pin spins in, and micro-machine hooks shoot out of it. On floor 3, they stack rolls of woven nanowire cable, called carb cable, next to the door to the stairwell. Drafts blow through the hall, but the winds on this floor are less. When Toshi opens the door to the stairwell, a wind gust bursts through, and the air pressure increases. Toshi and Mara enter while Ajay holds the door open. Their visors provide night vision. Inside the stairwell, the roar maintains a low rumble. Toshi mounts a loop and feeds the line through. Toshi continues mounting cable and climbing stairs. Mara stays back and keeps the cable moving forward. AJ brings in the roll of cable and shuts the door. They tread over jagged remains of shattered composites. The wind howls louder with each level they ascend, a rising fury that claws at them. They clip their harnesses onto the cable, bodies pressed hard against the wall. Gusts slam into them, yanking their limbs. Vents in the walls shriek and vibrate. Steps quivers beneath them, slick and greasy. Toshi pins and feeds, pins and feeds. The door to the 7th floor swings back and forth into the hall. Bang, bam, bang, bam. In the hall, wind whistles through ruptured ventilation ducts that broke through ceiling tiles. Thunder explodes like air raid bombs, and the building trembles with bone-shaking ferocity. He catches the door, while gripping a wall-mounted pipe, and pulls the door with all his might. His robo-glove scrapes the metal door handle. As the gap narrows, wind gusts diminish. The gap closes. The door clicks. The wind force cuts in half, bringing a smile to his face. Over link, Mara says, "Whatever you did up there, I feel it down here." As Toshi nears the landing on the 8th floor, Ajay says, "I'm running out of cable. I'm going to pin the end." Toshi waits. Several minutes later, the other two come up, both clipped to the cable and resisting winds that knock them around. Smiling, AJ carries the rolls of cable. Mara and Toshi hold onto the center handrail to get out of the way and let AJ feed the end of a new cable into the last loop Toshi made. There's minimal talk as winds jostle them relentlessly. Toshi drives the next pin loop, feeds the cable through, and attaches his front carabiner to the cable past the loop. The process continues like before. Sudden wind jets blast through, knocking them off their feet. They all fly up. When they've pulled themselves down and found their footing, Mara says, "Everyone okay?" "Yes." "Okay." As Toshi nears the 10th floor, the winds push him back with more force. As he presses into these headwinds, his feet slide back. Small projectiles hit. They clack on his visor and the shells on his clothes. He worries about getting hit by a larger projectile. Up ahead, the missing door to floor 10 reminds him of the footage of the 3 that got sucked outside into the storm. Wherever the heavy-duty door is, it's nowhere near the reinforced frame that once held it. Through the bent frame of the doorway, the walls in the hall vibrate to a point of blurring. Vertical cones of spinning debris wriggle down the hall's length. He gasps, then feels the air sucked from his lungs.
Winds gust forth 1 second and suck back the next. His gloves keep locking automatically to the cable as he's slammed into the wall, then pulled from it. He mounts 3 pins in a row to feed the cable through. He waits and watches. Mara's voice cracks over Link. "What's happening?" he shouts. "I'm waiting for my chance." The closer to the opening, the more he can see down the hall. Miniature tornadoes materialize and crash into each other, breaking apart. Droids smash into walls and each other, breaking down into parts. Utility and data cables hang from above, undulating like snakes in a fire. Electric sparks snap. Through the doorway, a huge gust blasts. He hangs on for dear life. As soon as it ebbs, he unlocks his gloves and lunges, grabbing the door frame and stabbing the nose of the pin driver just beyond it. A great wind sucks him through the door. His harness holds him as the wind pulls, his clothes flapping violently. The back carabiner jumps around behind the pin loop. Thrown every which way, he struggles to turn and grabs the door frame. His left glove locks to the frame and he pulls with all his might. He hangs vertical, legs dangling. With his other hand, he pushes the cable into the loop on the opposite side. The wind ebbs and he falls. He scrambles through the door on the opposite side. Glove unlock, snap carabiner in front of loop. Gloves relock, pin drive, bam, feed the cable. A gust like a locomotive passes through the door. The cable shakes back and forth across the door. Debris, small and large, pelts him. He's going to have bruising even with bulletproof film. Raising the pin driver, he punches the nose where the next stud is and feeds more cable. "Mara, come up here. I need your help." Hanging on behind the other side of the doorway, he catches his breath. Mara's gloves lock and unlock as she comes up the steps. Toshi calls out, "Unlatch my carabiner." Her eyes narrow as she watches him. "Are you sure?" He shows her the forward strap and carabiner. "I'm ready." As soon as he's free, he begins the steps to mount cable up the next flight of stairs. The other 2 eventually get past the doorway. As AJ nears the 12th floor, he finds the other 2 waiting for him. Somewhere above, the stairwell opens to the storm outside, and through that gaping hole, large air volumes shoot down the well. "What are we going to do about the 10th floor doorway?" Mara shouts. "We should put up fence mesh in front of it and forget about going onto that floor." Toshi installs extra pin loops near the 12th floor door. Everyone holds on as he uses a stick to push the handle. The handle turns. The door explodes open. A gust lifts all 3 from their feet. The building shakes and groans. They hang on as torrents throw them up and down. The winds knock them against the walls repeatedly. Constricted air pushing through the door whines at a deafening volume. Somewhere in the building, one cataclysmic crash is followed by another. Toshi reaches around the doorway and blindly pins loops on the other side. Using touch, he feeds cable through the loops. Waved around by the winds, he unclips the front carabiner, reaches around and clips it to the cable where it reaches between 2 loop pins. When he moves his body into the funnel of wind, it grabs him and pulls him through. His body whips back as the strap holding him to the wall yanks tight. He reaches back and attempts to secure a new loop 1/2 meter from the door, missing several times. A cord running from his glove to the pen driver ensures it stays attached to him. When he's thrown toward a wall-mounted pipe, he drops the driver and grabs onto the pipe. His glove locks on. He pulls himself out of the wind funnel, locks onto the pipe with the other hand, grabs the driver and drives 3 loops into the nearest stud. "Unlock my rear carabiner." He extends the cable and mounts further into the hall. Mara and Ajay hang to the cable as they struggle their way through the opening. As they make their way down the hall, lightning flashes.
causing Brit lights to light up brighter than standard. Shattered wall clocks, display cases, and notice boards cling to walls. They can see the storm through the gaping hole, far, far down the hall. Sheets of gray speed by. Red alarm lights come on and switch off in 1-second intervals, casting the corridor in shifting red and black shadows. All medium-sized objects, including foldables, flip through the air. Paper flies through holes in the walls, swept around structural beams. Benches roll down the hall along with battered robot parts. After extending cable down the hall, turning left, then right, Toshi comes to the door. The nuclear lab door remains locked with a key code panel. Toshi jabs the code. The panel beeps, then an LED turns green. Stay back. He pulls. Storm winds enter the room for the first time. The untouched furnishings groan as desks slide and equipment tumble off tables. The three hurry in and shut the door. The air grows quiet, and they heave sighs of relief, look around, and laugh. Their undisturbed night vision show a mostly tranquil room. Tools, schematics, and foldables lie where students last left them. Nodding toward a thick radiation shield glass window, Toshi says, "I think Dale spoke about the equipment in there." Mara's unusual eyes sparkle in the dark. "We should call him." AJ turns a full circle. "How the hell are we going to bring equipment back, let alone get back ourselves?"
A month later, as dozens move the food-growing equipment deep down into the shelter, Dale and Jondi assemble nuclear generator parts in the parking garage. They fire up a constructor bot to move the larger pieces into place. The device begins to look like a giant shiny onion that almost touches the ceiling. Pipes joined by bolts come off the onion shape and travel to other chambers and assemblies. Dale likes to work with Jondi. He is only 9 and one of the 5 who didn't die from the shaking disease. Dale gave him a course e-book on thorium reactors, and the next day, he understood the setup as well as Dale. The same thing happened with the molten salt assembly and the high-pressure generator. He absorbed the learning material overnight. He doesn't seem happy, but maybe with time he'll pull through. Against the furthest wall from stairwells and elevators, piled car parts make a circle that block a section of the garage off. Behind that circle, dense blocks, rough to the touch, are stacked in careful patterns forming a curved wall. Inside the barrier, the dark onion shape rises from the floor, made of a ceramic, nanowire composite. Its surface is smooth. It pulses with heat and excites the air. Crisscross pipes and cables snake away from it, disappearing into a maze of machinery. Fans spin on pumps. Steam hisses off surfaces. The floor hums. The turbine connects to a generator, and thick black cables run from it to a switchboard on the wall. A monitor on the wall displays numbers and graphs, tracking temperature, radiation levels, and power output. The air smells of burned dust.
Power. We have power. Those in the control room jump up and down and hug as the 3D model of the gravity power storage shows the weights on cables rise. The first of 50 freight container-sized weights, hung in a vertical shaft, begins to slowly rise. It will take months to wind all the weights to the top. Drawley takes a seat. What happens when all the weights are up? Lenny tilts his smile. We can keep them up and have backup power. Throughout the shelter, lights come on. Lights that were set to power-saving setting come on bright, and the dark halls burst into light. In the floors that were shut down, appliances click to life. Cool, cleaned air blasts through all air vents. Kids run through the halls cheering. The showers work. Kids with dirty arms and faces form lines to the showers. Another line forms at the clothing printer, where ragged and dirty clothes can be exchanged for new prints. This time, the newly printed clothes look far more bizarre than before. Instead of the school standards, No two outfits are alike. A shirt with tails, a black tutu, shoulder pads shaped like horns are just some of the out there looks. In a few hours, the droids come out. They organize and clean at full capacity, removing the buildup of messes that include dried vomit, dust, and stains. They take away the sheets, towels, and rags and replace them with new ones. Cylindrical bots scrub the walls, removing crayon scrawls and smears. Protests erupt when young artists don't want their murals removed, and Lenny must figure out how to set no clean zones. The control room team switch on servers. Kids can use rigs again to go into VR, and more kids play games in AR. These servers contain a snapshot of the world web before the storm online schools and some core AI services. Many youths start online projects. Control team gives Grace her own server. It was the K through second grade school server until she wipes it and turns it into an emulator of a Knott's computer. An entire floor is dedicated to food production. Level 14. The same floor where the lowest kitchen and cafeteria is. Kids move out of dorm rooms there, and late-class constructor bots remove walls and build shelves. One team reprograms the automated kitchen to make meals using the Ogra fruits. A team builds condensation tubes on level 2 parking garage near the surface. These 100 tubes cool airflows, causing condensation to form, drip into trays, and flow down linked fire hoses down the roughly 30 stories of stairs to the water recycle system. They collect more water than they need and shut it off, using the fire hose to store water. The mood has transformed. Kids laugh, play, study, and immerse themselves in projects. Survival dread fades, and the inhabitants can pay attention to more important things like who has a crush on who's the funniest and why so and so don't get along. The younger kids start a routine of walking the halls in a group, chanting scientific formulas. Bots of many shapes and sizes come out on the utility floor and start cleaning down the maze of narrow halls. Dim light reflects off bare mycrete walls under tangles of pipes crowding the ceiling. Machines hum in the stuffy air. Sniff sensors on the robots that work their way down the far north hall pick up a scent that sets off alarms. A light-duty constructor bot takes the elevator to the floor and walks down the north hall. It opens a hatch in the wall and sticks a hand through. Its fingertips have spectrometer smell sensors. Those on the control team receive an AR alarm pop-up. Lenny, Drawley, and DeAndre study schematics of neighboring buildings when it happens. Lenny looks around. Biohazard? What could this be about? Who wants to go check this out with me? DeAndre Air navigates a schematic. You guys go ahead. Drawley swipes down to close out his AR workspace, nods to Lenny, and stands. In the elevator down, Lenny reads the details of the alarm. That's where Cavan is. What do you suppose he did? Drawley looks around with his eyes while keeping his head still. When I read Biohazard, my first thought was dead rat. All those rats, and critters up top, don't you think some of them made it down here? Lenny frowns and shrugs. The conbot remains by the hatch when they reach it. Warning. A biocontamination is at the bottom of this exhaust tube. Lenny and Drawley hesitate mid-stride as a putrid smell hits their noses. Lenny covers his nose. Who was it that was supposed to feed Cavan? Drawley pulls his shirt over his lower face. I was never told. Lenny squints. A sis called Chalk. Chalk? Whose job was it to feed Cavan? Drawley stands perfectly still for several minutes as Lenny walks away from the smell and back again. Hey, how's it going with taking care of Cavan? One time? Well, a grim look causes Lenny's face to sag. He swipes down to end the call. Before Lenny steps up to the bot in the hatch, he takes a deep breath and holds it. Bot, shine some light down the tube for me. The bot opens the hatch and sticks his arm in. A light comes on, shining from its hand. Lenny pushes the arm to the side and pokes his head in. Cavan lies sideways, curled up. His pants are dark around the crotch. His fists also look dark. Scratch marks on the tube show where he must have stood and tried to claw his way out. Lenny pulls his head out and rushes down the hall. At some point in the future, Lenny will have a nightmare where Cavan is screaming and shouting inside a barrel, begging Lenny to let him out. The schooling servers in the underground survival facility can host emulated personalities. Emulated personality A. I require a mother load of compute power. The colony has no need for the K through second grade emulated learning, so they give it to Grace. It doesn't take her long to turn it into an emulated Knots computer, and she uses it to run simulations. Lenny comes to visit her in a soundproof practice room where she does most of her work. She sits with several windows open, and the largest window showing a simulation of moving molecules in a dense material. These AR elements are set to show up for anyone else who enters the room. Lenny closes the door after entering. "Hi, Grace." She says nothing and keeps typing. He takes one of the 2 empty seats behind her. "What are we looking at?" Like a small bird, Grace sits at the edge of her chair. "I'm calling it Rove simulation. The total simulated mass is an apple down to the standard model scale. It simulates several cells at a time in a surrounding quasi-region that calculates what happens because of all the other cells in the model, even when they aren't actively simulated. She moves the region so the cells on the right leave the simulation, and cells from the left begin to join the simulation. See? I can get most of the benefits of a larger model." He frowns. "Wait. You're running a multi-cell simulation? I thought the largest simulation could only run one simple cell, and that was on a supercomputer that included quantum computers." She air mouses. "Yes, that's true. That way of simulating had math bloat." He shakes his head. He has no words. She says, "A Knots computer is aligned with reality. This morning I came up with several atomic structures for room temperature superconductors." Something catches in Lenny's throat, and he struggles not to cough. "Wait. Back up. You found a way to?" Her fingers rat-a-tat-tat, and windows close. A loading bar appears, fills, and disappears, and a new main window pops up. In it, a 3D strip occupies empty space. She zooms into layers of interwoven molecules in the strip. "Here's one." He stands up. "This is a holy grail. Are you serious? Like, if this is true, we could... Her voice remains deadpan. "I thought we should build a fusion reactor with it." He holds a hand over his mouth and turns from left to right as though he may start pacing. "Americans never achieved fusion power. The Chinese have had it. But the Chinese never had room temperature superconducting material." She brings up another example. "I should be able to design one." He throws up his hands. "Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking better generators, frictionless bearings, better sensors. But how do we make it? We don't have fabrication equipment." He sits down and slumps, knowing it can take decades to learn to produce a desired material. She turns her head toward him for the first time in months. "The school has a medicine printer. It should be on the 5th floor. We can use that. In the long run, we'll need GM microbes to grow it for us." His face flushes. His imagination fills with scenes of kids riding hoverboards, cold computing, growing crystals by controlling magnetic waves, and using magnetic cooling to fight the heat above ground. That evening, gritting his teeth and feeling that he may hyperventilate, Lenny walks down the hall toward Winter's room. 4 girls standing close together watch him as he passes. Someone sings opera behind one of the closed doors. Her door gets closer and closer as he rounds the gently curving hall. His senses lean into peak intake, and he can hear an electronic buzz he's never heard before. His tongue doesn't want to work. He tries to swallow and a lump forms in his throat. He hears her door. Embarrassed, he looks up and down the hall. Let's get this over with. He lifts his fist, which now feels small, and knocks. He waits. He glances at the clock in his lower right. This is the time they agreed on. Maybe she's listening to something and can't hear. He knocks again, louder. Voices come down the hall. Laughter, anger, and confusion flash through his insides. Grocket. Grocket. This is stupid. Any interaction with her is guaranteed loss. Winter? He calls through the door. His voice sounds pathetic. He turns and walks.
2 nights later, around midnight, Lenny lies on his bed watching a Stoke Pals episode when a knock at his door causes him to sit up and swipe to shut off VR mode. Who is it? No answer. Should he see who it is? If it is, could it be? If it's just some kid with a random complaint. He stands, hurriedly pulls off his shirt, and puts on tomorrow's printed shirt. When he opens the door, she stands in the hall, frowning. I'm ready to learn Knott's math. She tilts her head and raises an eyebrow at him. It's like a hook that could yank him along if she so chose. His head fills with confusion. This late? Where should they study? What should he say? Both her eyebrows raise and she looks past his shoulder. He steps back, and she enters.